So this is our, inshallah, conclusion for our series on Al-ʿayn. We had begun talking about the history of Al-ʿayn, the evidences of the Qur'an for Al-ʿayn, the evidences of the Sunnah. We talked about the interpretation of Al-ʿayn amongst various ulama from within and outside of our trends. Now, inshallah ta'ala, today, and also we talked about the mechanism of how ʿayn takes place, the two opinions about whether it is something that there is a natural causality between the souls, or it is through the medium of the jinn. We talked about all of this, inshallah ta'ala. So today, inshallah, we will finish up by talking about two aspects: the symptoms of Al-ʿayn, how do you know you have Al-ʿayn, and then also the cure of Al-ʿayn, and we'll finish off with one or two miscellaneous points. So, symptoms of Al-ʿayn. This is one of the most difficult topics to talk about. Why? Because the Qur'an and Sunnah did not come with a list of symptoms. And this entire category, this entire discourse today, it comes from what is called tajruba, experience. So if you went to 10 different specialists, you would get 10 different lists. This is not definitive. Rather, this is a litmus test type of, not a litmus test, sorry, take that back. This is a type of prodding and testing. It's not litmus test. Litmus test means it's definitive. It is not a litmus test, I wanted to say. This is rather a checking and looking, is it possible or not? Sorry to burst your bubble, but to get straight to the point, it is almost impossible to definitively claim that this is Al-ʿayn. This is, I'm just getting straight to the point here. It is almost impossible to make a yaqini claim, because this is from ilm al-ghayb. And it is because of this that so many people are skeptical even of talking about this. Like, if you're not even sure that it is, then why make a big deal about it? And the response is because if it is Al-ʿayn, then there are mechanisms to cure it. So here lies the problem. And I'm going to say this bluntly. Unfortunately, the cultural belief of Al-ʿayn is much more than its actual existence. This is definitive. Every single person you talk to of ilm will say this. This is not coming from me. This is coming from all specialists in the field. The cultural belief of Al-ʿayn is exponentially more than the actual existence of Al-ʿayn. This is the fundamental problem. I spoke to a number of Raqis preparing this lecture. I am not a specialist Raqi. I told you this story multiple times. When I was in Medina for 10 years, the last year I was there, I realized I don't know how to do Ruqyah professionally. And of course, they don't teach you Ruqyah in Islamic University. They don't teach you how to kick jinns out. One of the classes is jinn kicking. No, we don't have that University of Medina. So I realized I needed to study this. So I found one of the local shuyukh that was Iraqi. So I spent a few months one-on-one outside of the curriculum just to, get an idea about Ruqyah. And I dabbled a little bit in Ruqyah when I came back, and I said this publicly. I stopped doing this because of the headache, because of the personal issues that happen when you open this door, because of the time that it just is just too much. And one of the main reasons, once you tell people you do Ruqyah, 100 people come and maybe 3 of them need Ruqyah. 97 need to go to a psychiatrist. They don't need to come to me, right? And talk to any Raqi, he will tell you the same thing. Any Raqi, he will tell you the same thing. I'm not even exaggerating. 95% of people blame something supernatural and it's in their head. So, I believe in sihr. I believe in jinn being involved in the lives of people. I believe in Al-ʿayn. But I also say the reality is much, much smaller than what the majority of people believe. This is the problem. So, the purpose of this lecture then is to give you a little bit of tools so that you can self-diagnose and see whether there is potential for doing something more professional or not. So, That having been said, we have to talk about three different aspects. Number one, a physical or a mental problem that has nothing to do with jinn and ayn and black magic. You have a disease, you have a virus, you have a diagnosable disease, and you go to the doctor says, oh, your skin is discolored because, you have this, oh, you have this issue here. If your disease can be diagnosed by a doctor, this is not sihr, it is not al-ʿayn. Sihr and al-ʿayn works in ways that modern science does not understand. There are people that have psychiatric problems. They have mental imbalance. It has nothing to do with ʿayn. It's just their chemical imbalance, or they have some issue. Allah created people with different tests, different struggles. And the default when you're struggling with something, don't bring in al-ʿayn and ruqyah and sihr. The default, as I said, no exaggeration, 90 to 95% of the time, it is a physical or a medical issue. Nothing to do with ruqyah. Now, of course, you can do ruqyah spiritually. You can do it anytime. You have a headache, take Tylenol and read Fatiha, no problem. But the headache has nothing to do with jinn and whatnot. You can read Fatiha for barakah, no problem. So how then do we differentiate? Here's some generic symptoms. None of them is definitive. None of them is a litmus test, is what I want to say. None of them is a litmus test. Number one, it is not diagnosable. If a doctor can diagnose, oh, I'm sorry to tell you, you have cancer. Cancer is not al-ʿayn. Cancer is not black magic. This is a medical issue. And it has nothing to do with the world of the unseen. The world of the unseen, by definition, operates in ways that are unseen, unknown, in ways that have nothing to do with our causal dunya. So, number one, it's not something that you can diagnose in the way that other diseases are diagnosed. Number two, that something sudden changes. Where things were going good, things were going normal, and then overnight, changes occur. This is not normal. So, for example, if your business is going to fail, usually it takes a while for the business to fail. If the business is going absolutely great and then overnight no customers are coming in, something's not making sense. And you don't have a causal explanation. You don't have an actual reason, right? If you did something, different marketing, you changed the cook in the restaurant, then you know what's the problem, right? But if there's no tangible reason, then you start thinking, okay, maybe this is supernatural, right? When you don't find a natural connection, you start thinking, maybe is this supernatural? Number two. Number three, and this is the biggest symptom of either sihr or ʿayn. This is the biggest, if you like, mechanism, and that is reading the Qur'an has an impact on you. This is the most powerful symptom that this is not a natural issue. This is a supernatural issue. Because the Qur'an is barakah, yes, no doubt about that. And if Allah wills a miracle happens. But the sihr and the ʿayn cannot be cured by natural remedies. If you have sihr, taking Tylenol will not make the sihr go away. Whereas reading the Qur'an will impact the sihr. You see the difference here, right? Same with ʿayn. If you have ʿayn, and let's say the skin is discolored, so one of the common issues, is pretty common for ʿayn, is to have patches in your skin, let's just say, right? Especially, as I said, or for men, issues of business. As I said in our last lecture, women generally, the ʿayn is about beauty and marriage, and men generally, it is about wealth and about fame. Okay, so if these issues you find for no reason, it just starts, things change in your relationship for no reason, then reading Qur'an has an immediate impact. Now, this is warning bells. Okay, this looks ʿayn or sihr. How do you know if it's sihr or ʿayn? This is even more complicated now. And I'm not going to go there today. I'll simply say, by the choice of verses that the raqi uses and the impact of each verse on the person. So, sihr, the verses of sihr will impact on the person. So Allah says in the Qur'an, وَلَا يُفْلِحُ السَّاحِرُ حَيْثُ أَتَى. إنما جئتم به السحر إن الله سيبطله واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس السحر. When you recite the verses of sihr, then an impact is seen in the person. Whereas if it is al-ʿayn, the impact is not going to be seen. If you recite verses that are different in nature. So what are those verses? So for example, and again, this is a quick summary, and for longer you need to go to specialists. Remember what I said. The choice of these verses is experiential. By the cumulative experience of raqis around the world, they have noticed that these verses have an impact. It's just experience, take it or leave it. Of these verses, basically, to put it in a nutshell, all the verses that deal with hasad or that mention the word ʿayn in it, it seems to impact the person that has al-ʿayn in an immediate manner. So for example, in Surah Baqarah verse 109, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَوْ يَرُدُّونَكُم مِّن بَعْدِ إِيمَانِكُمْ كُفَّارًا حَسَدًا مِّنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِهِمْ. If you say this verse and you keep on saying حَسَدًا مِّنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِهِمْ حَسَدًا مِّنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِهِمْ حَسَد, you say this from the Qur'an upon the person, and you notice an impact. We'll talk about what impact in a while. Then this looks like this isn't sihr, this is ዐyn. Another example is Surah Al-Ahzab verse 19. That Allah Azza wa Jalla says, رَأَيْتَهُمْ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَيْكَ تَدُرُ أَعْيُنُهُمْ كَالَّذِي يُغْشَى عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ الْمَوْتِ. You will see them staring at you, their eyes rolling around as if they're about to die. So Allah is criticizing the munafiqeen about how they stare at you. When you quote this verse, Surah Ahzab verse 19, upon the one that has ዐyn, it has an immediate impact, generally speaking. Another example, Surah Yasin, verse 66, وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَطَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ. If we wanted to, we could have blinded their eyes, and they would struggle to find their way. So basically, multiple verses. Of course, Surah Qalam, verse 51 is especially important, because it is probably the most implicit, explicit verse of Al-ʿayn. We've already mentioned it. وَإِنْ يَكَادُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَيُزْلِقُونَكَ بِأَبْصَارِهِمْ لَمَّا سَمِعُوا الذِّكْرَ. So memorize this as well. Surah At-Tur, verse 48. وَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ فَإِنَّكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا. Allah is watching you with His ዐyn. Allah is watching you. So you recite that verse. Surah Al-Munafiqun, verse 4. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَهُمْ تُعْجِبُكَ أَجْسَامُهُمْ وَإِنْ يَقُولُوا تَسْمَعْ لِقَوْلِهِمْ كَأَنَّهُمْ خُشُبٌ مُسَنَّدَةٌ. So on and so forth. And Surah Insan, verse 6. عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ يُفَجِّرُونَهَا تَفْجِيرًا. These are all verses that you should memorize. Then the most powerful verses that you already know. Surah Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falaq, and Surah Nas. You only know these. I don't need to go over them. If you don't know any of the previous verses that I mentioned, even though I mentioned every verse number, if you cannot do any of them, the most powerful verses are the ones that you already know. Fatiha is Ruqyah. The Prophet called it Ruqyah. Ayatul Kursi is أعظم آية في كتاب الله. It is the most powerful book in the book of verse in the book of Allah. And Surah Ikhlas, as you know, Falaq was revealed for ዐyn. Falaq was revealed for ዐyn. And Nas was revealed for sihr. Right? So Falaq and Nas, both of them, they were revealed for sihr and ዐyn. So when you recite Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Nas on the person or on yourself. So by the way, nobody should think that the raqi has special powers that I don't have. No. You can do ruqyah on yourself. You can do ruqyah on your spouse, your child, your mother, your father. It's just that the raqi has two things that you can also acquire. Number one, he knows which verses to use. I'm telling you which verses to use. And number two, no doubt there's experience that comes, right? Otherwise, as you know, we Muslims don't believe in a clergy. We don't believe in a church body appointing holy people and ministers. That's the Catholic Church. That's not us, right? All of us can lead the salah. But some people are better tilawah than others. But all of us can lead the salah. You know this. Similarly, all of us can do ruqyah. But yes, some people have better verse choices. And there is an issue here which needs to be said. The iman of the one doing the tilawah impacts the tilawah upon the ruqyah, right? So that's has nothing to do with knowledge. It's iman. Take an elderly grandfather. He hasn't studied any madrasa. He's a muttaqi. He's praying tahajjud. That person's tilawah will not be like the tilawah of the one who's struggling to pray 5 times a day. The iman of the qari has an impact on the ruqyah. So try to find a person that you think has good iman and say, Akhi, please recite Falaq and Nas on me. Please recite these surahs on me. Go to your grandfather, go to an elderly person and do it on yourself. Even if you go to somebody, make sure you do it on yourself, because ruqyah is always done on yourself. Now, I said these verses have an impact. What impact? Listen, I'm going to go over a list that I have compiled by talking to many raqis, by doing ruqyah myself, and by reading from raqis that done this. And once again, these symptoms are from tajruba, from experience. Reciting the Qur'an, if the person, sorry to be explicit here guys, it's going to sound funny but it's factually correct. If the person flips out and becomes an alter ego, the jinn comes out, this is almost for certain sihr. Because in ʿayn, generally speaking, the jinn does not come out that quickly. Āyn is a different type of battle. So, and again, generally, because you have exceptions in both. That's the problem, there's no definitive, right? But generally speaking, when you recite verses of sihr, you will see an impact that indicates that there is a jinn inside this person. And that indication is typically blabbering. You will see the eyes flip out. You will see the person close their eyes and speak in a different voice, different language. All of this is true. I have personal tajriba. So please, nobody tell me anything. I have so many stories which I don't want to go into, but my eyes and ears have seen too much to doubt sihr and āyn. That's what I'm trying to say, guys. Like, enter our world and you will realize it is a reality. Okay, sihr is definitely a reality, and āyn is a reality. So when you recite verses of sihr, generally things begin to happen. A trembling that is quite unique, you recognize it, right? Or rippling of the skin. The skin ripples, you see it, which is the entity going up and down the body. Generally that is sihr, when you recite verses of sihr, right? If you recite verses of āyn upon the one that has sihr, generally that doesn't happen. Right? When you recite verses of āyn upon the one that has āyn, what happens? A number of things. And again, it doesn't mean all of them have to happen. Of the things that happen, excessive yawning. You're reading Qur'an, the guy's yawning back at you. Of them is sweating. It's cold weather or normal, and when you read Qur'an, he's just sweating. Of them is when you're just reciting, he's about to faint, he feels very lightheaded for no reason. He was fine, normal. But when you recite within few minutes, and he's like, Akhi, stop, I'm going to faint. And you're not supposed to stop, you need to keep on going, but he's wanting to faint. Of them is he might start gagging, vomiting, actual or the sounds coming of it. And also when you start reciting, make sure if that happens, you get in touch with the brother or sister within a few hours and ask him what happened after the recitation. So another symptom, another characteristic is that āyn, for example, might cause one to feel dread, to feel anxious. When you read Qur'an, it's lifted up. He's going to say, Akhi, I don't know what after you recited, my anxiety went away. This isn't Tylenol, this is āyn. You see, this isn't medical, this is supernatural. For weeks, I couldn't concentrate. I open a book and I cannot read anything. But after you did ruqyah, I can now read. This is an impact of the Qur'an, right? And when a person tells you this, then you begin to start saying, aha, this could be āyn. You see what I'm saying here, right? This could be āyn here. So, being able to sleep peacefully after weeks of not sleeping peacefully, right? He will say, I just cannot sleep, as if I'm feeling anxious, I'm tossing and turning, okay? By the way, again, not to frighten you and all that, but this is the reality. Sometimes you might feel a presence in your life, entity in your whatever, right? Somebody's watching you, something like this. these are all symptoms of supernatural. When you recite the Qur'an, generally speaking, it will immediately impact. So you recite Qur'an, the same night, he will say, I haven't slept like this for months. That's what I'm talking about. Now you realize, okay, this is not medical, this is supernatural. This is now I need to ruqyah on you more, okay? And then, as I said, you will go to a raqi simply because the raqi knows more, and then you will tease out, is it ayn or is it sihr? And that's going to be done by more recitation and various recitations. Also, for example, this is pretty self-evident. One of the symptoms of ayn, one of the most common symptoms, is that, as I said, skin discoloration, right? Or skin issues here. Because, as we said, ayn, a lot of it has to do with hasad. And hasad is because of beauty. So when the ayn is there because of hasad, it's going to impact the beauty. So when you read Qur'an and it is ayn, miraculously, within a day or two, the discoloration goes away. The problems, the wrinkles go away. I have seen this with my own eyes. No cream and lotion can do this because it wasn't caused by dryness of the skin. It was caused by something supernatural. Now, if you don't continue reciting, it might come back. So now you know, aha, this is now something that has to do with Al-ʿayn. So continuously reciting, you see the impact. This is the most significant mechanism of figuring out whether it is ayn or not. And if you recite and recite and recite and absolutely nothing happens, then in all likelihood it is not ayn and sihr. Okay? If there's no impact, then in all likelihood it is not ayn and sihr. So realize, Quranic recitation, its impact, generally speaking, is fairly effective and immediate. And I'll give you examples from not just my life that I've done, but the raqis that I know. So for example, one case happened that there was a very good student, always forming high grades, everything. And somebody visits the house, and as you know, mother praises, oh, mera beta, wah, 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 you know, like that, you know, we're going to talk about, you don't do this, right? That same day, he couldn't study anymore. He's opening the book, and nothing is coming in. He cannot, cloudy, this and that. And he fails exams. Like, what happened? I used to get good grades. Overnight, a change happens, and you have a gut instinct because of somebody's visit. Now I have to pause here, go into a very awkward tangent. Are you allowed to suspect somebody of ayn? This is a very awkward topic. Response: you are allowed to suspect, but you cannot accuse definitively. And if you suspect, you may take reasonable precautions, but this is not a judge and jury trial. There's no evidence you can submit. So in the end of the day, a heart feeling, and how do you know? Generally, like I said, in this particular case, the mother comes and the son comes and tells the story that a family was visiting, my mother praised me in front of that family. I saw, the lady looking at me. Next thing you know, she feels something. That gaze impacted me. There's an intuition. Now, it's not a court of law, but you kind of sort of feel, okay, something happened here, right? And the symptoms are there. So to be clear, you may feel something in your heart, and that may cause you to act differently, but you cannot accuse people definitively, because this is not, you cannot bring evidence in this regard, but you're allowed to take precautions in your own life here. So back to our issue here. So I gave this example. So then the same day that Ruqyah was done, he went home, and lo and behold, he could read without any headache. He could read clearly. So within one Ruqyah session, we realize, okay, this is ayn. So then you give the treatment, and I'll tell you what the treatment is, like what is to be done. But here's what I'm talking about in symptoms of what ayn might be. Jayyid. So this is the first section today, which is the symptoms of al-ayn and how to test whether it is al-ayn. And that's, inshallah, relatively clear. The second topic today is how to protect ourselves from it. What are the steps that the Qur'an and Sunnah has to prevent us from getting ayn in the first place. And this is much easier to derive from the Qur'an and Sunnah because some of these are explicit. Number one, stop boasting about the blessings you or your family have in front of other people. Don't come and say, mera beta this and my beti that. Just keep things. Now, the problem comes, our culture has gone to an extreme. So, not just not boasting, but then you think it is good to put people down. And that is an extreme. We don't do this. And it was common in our culture, I don't know if it's still common or not, for the elders, if somebody said something good, they would literally say something nasty out of love. It doesn't work that way. So this is not a part of our culture. It's just you as an individual, you don't boast of your blessings and you keep them concealed. Number two, if you must, like we all have cars that we drive, whatnot, okay, take reasonable precaution. And it's not as if you can hide everything that you have, but there's a difference between appreciating what Allah has given you versus flaunting your wealth. And that difference, everybody knows the difference, right? Allah has blessed some people with some wealth, so obviously they're going to dress according to their wealth. But some people, not only do they dress, they want you to know how they dress. There's a big difference between the two, right? The story of Yaqub and his sons. What did he say to his sons? He has 11 sons. You can't change that. They're all tall, handsome. You can't change that. You're not going to tell them, don't go outside. But then you take reasonable precautions. وَقَالَ يَا بَنِيَّ لا تدخلوا من باب واحد وادخلوا من أبواب متفرقة. And Yaqub knows وما أغني عنكم من الله من شيء. It's not going to help you, but and Allah says it didn't help except حاجة في نفس يعقوب قضاها. Realize you take precaution in the end, Allah is in charge. So number two, take reasonable precaution. Number three, constantly seek refuge in Allah from the evil eye and from sihr and from jinn. So وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. And the Prophet ﷺ would bring Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhuma, and he would blow on them. أُعِيذُكُمَا بِكَلِمَاتِ اللَّهِ التَّامَّةِ مِن كُلِّ شَيْطَانٍ وَهَامَّةٍ وَمِن كُلِّ عَيْنٍ لَامَّةٍ. This hadith is in Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ would do ruqyah on his own grandchildren. أُعِيذُكُمَا. I seek refuge in Allah for you too. From what? Min kulli shaytan, from every shaytan. Waham, and from every scorpion or snake. I don't want a scorpion or snake to bite you. Wamin kulli ayn lam, and from every ayn that is going to give laum, that is going to give you grief and hassle. Notice, I seek refuge in Allah for you from any shaitan to harm you. Oh Allah, protect the shaitan, protect them from shaitan. Number two, protect animals. I don't want an animal, scorpions and snakes. And number three, from an ayn that will harm you. So make du'a to Allah upon yourself and upon your children and family. Number four, that if your heart feels something, either of jealousy or of amazement or awe, then you need to be careful and cleanse your own heart. Because if you allow your jealousy or your awe to go unchecked, you are responsible, because you had to keep, I spoke about this multiple times in this masjid, and that is, as a default, emotions are forgiven. But some emotions are not forgiven. Of them, arrogance against Allah. A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. That is not forgiven. If you feel arrogance against Allah, this is satanic. And of them is hasad. Hasad, you cannot allow hasad to remain in your heart. You can allow lust to remain. You are not sinful. It's not healthy, but Allah is not going to punish you. You can allow the desire to have haram wealth. Allah is not going to punish you. You can allow many, and Allah... But you cannot allow hasad to remain. You must fight it. You must cleanse your heart of it. And therefore, we are taught in our tradition that when you see something, then you should make dua for it rather than allow the hasad to penetrate your heart. And this is in Surah Kahf, they say, وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Again, the story is not explicit about ayn, but they have derived from this. MashaAllah, la quwwata illa billah. That if you feel something, then say MashaAllah, la quwwata illa billah. And ask Allah to barik, to give barakah. Allahumma zid wa barik. Allahumma a'tihi, even more. Allah give him even more. Make du'a for the one you are feeling jealous of to remove that jealousy. And by the way, when you make du'a for somebody, angels will come and say, may you also be given the same. So go ahead and be selfish. You like somebody's new car, say, may Allah bless you with an even better car. And in your niyyah, you actually want that car yourself. That's halal. That's halal. You're making dua for him, but in your heart of hearts, you want the angel close by to say Ameen, and may you get the same. And that is halal. That's why the Prophet told us this incentive. It's all good. Let him get a better car and let you get an even better car. No problem. Yes, that's totally halal jealousy. That jealousy is not haram. That you want him to get good, but you also want a good car, no problem. No problem, inshallah, with that, right? Same goes for any issue, whether it's beauty, whether it's a good marriage. May Allah bless your marriage even more. And you want your own marriage to be blessed. Yes, make dua like that. So this is what number is this? Fourth? Okay, the fourth one. Or the fifth one, I forgot. Number 5, whatever it is, I forgot the numbers. Number 5, the ādhkār of the morning and evening. Especially the ādhkār after Fajr and after Maghrib. These ādhkār protect you from sihr and from ʿayn like nothing else. Sitting after the salawat and not racing away. Sitting after Fajr and after Maghrib. 5-10 minutes and just doing the ādhkār. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. And then Ayatul Kursi. And then whatever the ādhkār. Just these ādhkār are the fortifications against all supernatural calamities. So the ādhkār. The next point is number 6. Constantly reciting Qur'an. And there's no protection better than the Qur'an. And then the final one, this is a little bit strange, but it's straight from the Sunnah, guys. So if you find it strange, again, because you haven't taught this. In the hadith of Sahl ibn Hunayf that I talked about, where Sahl ibn Hunayf was literally overcome with ʿayn and he fell down in front of everybody. And the Prophet said, what happened to him? And they said, well, so-and-so saw him. And then he just fell down. So the Prophet called him and said, why would you harm your own brother? Why didn't you say baraka, tabarrakta lahu? Why didn't you say baraka, Allahumma barik, when you were amazed by this? By the way, this shows you that sometimes some type of ʿayn is not coming from an evil heart. It is coming from a heart of amazement, ta'ajjub. And that is more rare, but it is also possible. That it's not as if the heart is burning with evil, but it's like a sense of overwhelming. Wow, that's nice. I wish I had that too. You have to be just careful in that regard. So when this happened, the Prophet said, now this is mukhtalaf, what exactly happened here. He said, do ghusl and take the water of your ghusl and store it and then give it to Sahl. What does this mean? Our scholars have differed about this. There's a whole controversy, a whole ikhtilaf. Some scholars like Imam al-Tahawi, he says this is abrogated. You don't need to do this anymore. Only falaq an-nas. This was before falaq an-nas. So Imam al-Tahawi says this technique should not be done. That's an opinion. The other opinion is that either wuḍū or ghusl, you do the wuḍū and you have a pot. So the water that comes, you store that used wuḍū water. And you store it in that pot. Or the water of ghusl even. So you just pour some water on you when you're doing ghusl. And that water you pour, you should have another pot underneath it. And that pot will store it. And then you go to the one that has ʿayn. And wherever he has it, you just pour that water on it. And it happened with Sahl ibn Hunayf. And he was immediately cured. So Ibn al-Qayyim and others, they comment that it is as the water purifies, so it takes the hasad, it takes the negativity. And that negativity then, you just throw it on the person to cleanse it off of him now, right? From the person who did it. But the issue is you have to know who did it. And that's why it is a little bit awkward. There is a hadith in Sahih Muslim. In Sahih Muslim, Ibn Abbas says, the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-ʿaynu haqq, ʿayn is true. And if anything were to change qadar, it would be Al-ʿayn. Meaning, ዐyn is so powerful, it has the potential to change qadar. Then he said, وَإِذَا اسْتُغْسِلْتُمْ وَإِذَا اسْتَغْسَلْتُمْ فَاغْسِلُوا. If somebody asks you to do ghusl for them, then do ghusl for them. This is a lost custom completely, because it means you will go up to somebody and basically say, I think you gave me ዐyn. Can you do wuḍū for me or do ghusl for me? And the Prophet said, if somebody comes to you asking for your wuḍū water, ghusl water, do it for them. Because this is the most effective and easy mechanism to cure ዐyn. So I'm just telling you straight from the Sunnah. Of course, Tahawi says this is abrogated. And the problem comes, number one, a lot of times you're accusing people and they didn't do it. Or number two, it would be very awkward for them because they're not going to know this hadith and whatnot. So it is what it is. I'm just teaching you from our tradition. Jayyid. So let's conclude now with some miscellaneous points. These are the Sunnah mechanisms of treating ዐyn. There are completely wrong and incorrect ways of treating ዐyn. And these are haram or even bordering on shirk or maybe even potentially shirk. And this is to believe in good luck charms. We are Muslims. We do not believe in good luck charms. We do not believe in talismans. We do not believe in wearing something that is shaped this way or has an eye or something like this, and that will protect you from ዐyn. No, that goes back to ancient Egypt. That goes back to ancient Greece. That goes back to the Akkadians, not the Qur'an and Sunnah. Right? So there are many such icons. Perhaps the most famous one in the Muslim world is the turquoise eye. And it is especially common in Turkey. And it predates Islam. And it actually has its origins even in the ancient Greece culture of Horus and others, the ancient gods, right? You've seen that eye of the ancient Egyptians. The same thing permeates throughout the Eastern cultures until it becomes the turquoise eye, right? We are not allowed to hang this believing that it protects us from the evil eye. If you have it, you think it's decoration. I'm talking about it's just a piece in your house or whatever. I would still say people might misunderstand. But in the end of the day, what is al-a'malu bin-niyat? If you hang this around your neck or in the house thinking that will protect you, I mean, come on guys, we are not, people of superstition, right? That's not what we believe. Also, another one that is somewhat common in Indian, Pakistani cultures, not as common, but it is there, is the, what's it called? The panch something, like the five fingers hand. Huh? Panjata. Like it's basically the hand. Like this. You find a symbol that is like the hand. And then especially in some Sufi and Shi'i cultures, you will have Ali, Hassan, Hussein, Fatima, like that. You will have the names of the imams on there, whatnot, And the notion is that the hand is going to stop the ዐyn. It's going to come in and go, khalas, no ዐyn. And again, no, it's the Qur'an. It's not the hand. We don't believe in these types of talismans. We don't believe in these types of things. And our Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ta'allaqa tamimatan faqad ashrak." Whoever holds on to some talisman, whoever hangs one of these things, it is as if he has done shirk. We have to be careful. We don't believe in these types of things. So avoid all of this. Jayyid. Let us now conclude with a summary and a call to action. The summary is that Al-ʿayn is an almost universally accepted reality in almost all pre-Islamic civilizations. And Islam came and it acknowledged this reality because people have lived this reality. And it acknowledged it as a reality that exists in the world of the souls. Whether this reality is soul to soul or whether it is through the jinn, we don't know. But it seems to be a reality, and it is not something Islam invented. It's not something that Islam is unique about. It is people around the world had accepted it. In our times, it has become something that is not believed in by many people. And perhaps one of the reasons is that it has been exaggerated. Even in pre-Islam and in Islamic cultures, it has been exaggerated. So we all acknowledge that its existence is much less than the perception of its existence. We all acknowledge this. Nonetheless, it is real, and therefore we should take reasonable precautions to not flaunt our wealth, to avoid bringing suspicion to us, to live simple lives, to cleanse our hearts of evil, and these are all good things. They're all pure things, and we should protect ourselves via extra ādhkār, extra Qur'an. And last point, we should not jump to conclusions about ʿayn and sihr affecting our lives. This is not from the Qur'an and Sunnah, that every tragedy happens, oh, this is somebody gave me ʿayn, somebody gave me sihr. I challenge you to find this in the Qur'an and Sunnah. This is the exception, that when symptoms are very clear, then you think it is sihr or ʿayn. Otherwise, as a default, please, I want to conclude on this point. As a default, what is affecting you is not sihr or ʿayn. That is the general rule. What is affecting you is the normal reality of human life. We go up, we go down. We lose a job, we gain a job. Marriages come up and down, that's the reality. You pass an exam, you fail an exam. That's the reality. Stop blaming ʿayn for every single problem that happens to you. If a problem doesn't make sense and certain conditions are met and the Qur'an has an immediate impact, then perhaps it is ʿayn. And even if it is, you can do nothing other than dhikr and Qur'an and turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and becoming more religious. That's the only way we can protect ourselves from ʿayn. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse our hearts of any hasad and to protect us from the shar of the hasideen. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to avert from us the ʿayn of the one that has hasad, and to avert from us the harms of anyone that wants to harm us. And Allah is indeed the ultimate protector. And I hope inshallah this 3-part series was a benefit. وجزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.